Not sure why the screen's going up. I guess we actually left that in the setup. Oh, we might lose all of our filmmakers here. They're slowly disappearing. Oh no! Watch out, Taylor. Watch out, Devin. Ah! We'll have to drop the screen down again momentarily. Initially, we were planning to project everyone onto the back there, and then we decided let's just leave the screen down for everything. Some of our filmmakers are in-house. If they could please join me on stage, that would be great. We just enjoyed our Northern Shorts block between 32 Goldfish and the Spooky Girls. Is everyone thoroughly confused yet? So we saw Cooped Up, Happenstance the Funeral, The Other Border, Alice and Nighthawk, Heaven, 32 Goldfish, Karaoke People, and the Spooky Girls. Joining me here on stage momentarily are Jason and Gabe, who worked on the Spooky Girls. We also have another member of their crew, Sarah, has joined. And as soon as we get the screen back down, in the bottom left corner is Taylor Morden. Taylor was the maker of the last Blockbuster documentary, which we showed on Friday night. That was our feature film. And he also made the short Cooped Up. Thank you, Phyllis. Next to Taylor is Devin Tao. Devin is the filmmaker behind Alice and Nighthawk. That was the dance choreography film. Brandy Machado up there. Brandy is the director behind Happenstance, The Funeral. Next to Brandy, we don't have picture yet, but Erik Fox. I'm not sure, Erik, if you have a camera, but if you do, please turn it on. There we go. Hey, Erik.
That will explain why no one could hear.
Erik is the maker of 32 Goldfish. There's Sarah. Hello, Sarah, from the Spooky Girls. Justin Zimmerman up in the upper right corner there. Justin is the filmmaker behind The Other Border. Up at the top is Jen Tate, who made Karaoke People. Welcome everyone who was able to join us. So we just saw some extraordinary films. Jason and Gabe, I know both of you are now getting blinded by the light, but I appreciate you joining me here as well to discuss each of these films. So let's kind of go in order here. So we'll start with Jen up top with Karaoke People. So your film is semi-autobiographical. And actually, first, before I preface that, let me remind our online audience who are watching via live stream that we do have a chat room and you can type in questions. We will relay those to the filmmakers. For those of you in-house who would like to ask a question, we have microphones there, and there in the audience, there's a little X on the floor that you can walk up to and ask a question if you like. Thank you to those who are joining us online, and thank you to those of us who are joining us in person. We are actually the only film festival in the entire country right now that is able to do a traditional sit-down film festival. Every other film fest is either canceled or gone to a exclusive virtual presentation or temporary drive-in. So lucky us, I guess. We get to actually sit in a theater and watch films. What a novel concept. Jen, thank you for making your film Karaoke People. I know it's a very autobiographical film, but what made you want to put your story to film?
Well, you know, I spent many exploring the world. Those evenings would often end with, according to my husband, jumping up and down at the bed. Oh my God, I had so much fun. You have to hear all these stories. So that would happen. And after years of that, I give him credit for the moment when he said, you know, there might be other people who want to hear these stories besides me at 3 in the morning. And that I was like, oh, there's another reason. So that was sort of the impetus. And at that point, I decided to go to a congressional booth and just sort of see who find out there to connect with this concept of karaoke meaning more than just singing at your bachelorette party or whatever. People who do it as therapy.
Fantastic, Jen. You might want to check. You might want to check your microphone setting a little bit. You're kind of cutting in and out a little bit with us. And Erik, could you?
Yeah, we have a bit of it.
Could you knock up the volume just a slight touch there? We've been hearing we might have a little bit of a delay on things too. So apologies in advance for that. Since we have 3 people from the Spooky Girls, we have Gabe over here, Jason, and Sarah is joining us from Portland. Maybe you three need to explain yourselves as far as the concept of your film. Now, it's the puppetry is incredible, and for those of you in house, actually, they brought some of the puppets they used in the film. They're on display out in the lobby that you can check out. But the concept behind this is actually that it's kind of episode 1 of a series, right? Or hopefully.
Yeah, we're
That'd be nice.
there's a bigger story, going on. This was kind of just their daily lives and going into little slices of, and introducing the characters and just exploring if the techniques will even work. That's why the shots are very straightforward, and there's not a whole lot of camera movement or anything. It's just to see if the puppets can emote and talk and get all of that across.
Terrific. We'll give each filmmaker a chance to chime in, but we already have an audience question over here. David.
On the Scary Girls, what went into making the puppets, and did you at times animate over the top of them for special effects, or is that physically doing effects on them in real form?
Gabe can answer the puppet one, and I can answer the effects one.
Yeah, we spent about 6 months developing the puppets. They're a different style. Sarah had some really great ideas for kind of an upside-down marionette based off of all the puppet research that she's done. She's the real puppeteer behind all of this, and I did a bunch of development inside those little faces to make them work. Yeah. So it's kind of a marrying of stop-motion puppets and the way that they function in their faces, and some magical pieces in between to make it live. So yeah, developed specially for this show.
Terrific. David, did you have a follow-up question?
Yes.
That's
effects.
Yeah.
Sarah and I have another group called Nightshade where we do shadow puppetry, where it's all like live with editing, and through that I've learned a lot of techniques with stencils and light projection. So a lot of the effects that were done, I made a little box out of like foam core and did a lot of back projecting and shooting into the box with the camera and putting effects on the camera, and and then overlaying that to get some of the sparkly crazy.
Sometimes the puppets will be talking and you can see the mouth moving, and other times they're talking and they're not moving at all.
Well, I mean, no, that's
That's why you have an imagination.
Good enough answer for me, I guess.
Can't beat that.
Maybe we should preface that any questions that come to Devin have to be interpretive dance, and any questions that are given to Jen have to be sung. It seems appropriate based on their films. So, Justin, let's talk to you a little bit about the other border, because you shot your film in a really unique way compared to everybody else. Tell us how you shot it and why in the world would you put yourself through that hell?
Yeah. So my film, The Other Border, is about the immigration issue and a young man who was slated to be deported. His folks brought him over when he was 6 months old, and he was a junior in high school when he was rounded up in Ohio, of course, and now is going to be unceremoniously dumped in Mexico as soon as they can get their acts together. Most of the immigration work that I have seen is on the news. So you have high definition images, you have that distance between the viewer and the subject. And we wanted to tell a family story. So what better way to do that than with film? 8mm and 16mm film, making what we hope would feel more like a home movie. Bring the audience to this family and share this experience in a completely different way than a multimedia way that most people encounter this kind of issue.
Okay. So Justin shot the film entirely on actual film. Everyone films, digitally now. He shot on 8mm and 16mm film. We actually have a working 8mm player out in the lobby playing films in between. It's from 1969 to give you an idea of the kind of technology that Justin was working with to create his film. It gave it a beautiful grainy effect on it, but if you were wondering, like, was the camera or was our projector out of focus a little bit? Maybe no. That's because of the 8mm and 16mm grain footage. Erik is the maker of 32 Goldfish, which is definitely our most David Lynch-esque film in the festival. Erik, maybe you should explain the concept behind Goldfish as payment, because that was kind of the overlying theme of your film. And I'm sure, I mean, the first time I watched it, I was thoroughly confused. Like, what's the deal with the fish? But you had a really good explanation for that when we talked before.
I did. Okay. God knows if I know what it is now. I don't know. I thought it's, well, this lag is killing me. Hold on. I'm gonna mute myself. I thought of I don't know, goldfish were originally bred out of like carp in East Asia. They're like a status symbol, a sign of opulence, and now they're like 50 cents at like your local Petco. Oh, I don't know if somebody said something.
Keep going.
Did you interject or?
No, it's we can hear you just fine, Erik. So goldfish
Okay.
were originally
Sorry.
like a high value thing that were bred, but now you can get them for like 50 cents.
Yeah, and it's there's the idea, the misconception they have like a 5-minute memory or a 5-second memory, and I thought it was a really good idea for a terrible currency, I guess.
Terrific. Brandy.
I don't know. Yeah.
Brandy is joining us. Brandy was the director of Happenstance, the funeral, and similar to the Spooky Girls, your film was actually kind of an episode 1 as well, right? Can you tell us about the series that you're planning?
Yeah, so the series based off of this thing called bubble humping, which I heard about on a podcast, and it's where people get assigned random events from the internet, and they go. They don't know anyone there. It could be a funeral. It could be the guy who actually started it. It's a real thing. His first event was a family Thanksgiving that was several hours away from where he lives, and he just rolled up and told them what he was doing. So I kind of thought that it'd be fun to see what it would be like if people met doing that, and all the kind of fun things that they would get up to. So the hope is to make more episodes, but it costs money, and the first one was self-funded. Obviously, filmmaking is a little bit more complicated right now. So we'll see what happens, but I hope to make more episodes where they go to more events and develop as characters and friends.
Terrific. Joining us once again is Taylor Morden. As I said, Taylor made the documentary The Last Blockbuster, which was our opening feature film. He also had a film in last year's festival, documentary called Pick It Up, Ska in the 1990s, which was fantastic. It was one of my favorite films from last year's festival. Taylor made this film in a very unique way as well. This was just sort of a fun little project while you're stuck in quarantine. But please explain how exactly Cooped Up was shot.
The actors were quarantined at their house with a friend of theirs who happened to be a DP. So I packed up all my equipment and put it outside, wiped it down, sterilized it. And they picked it up and directed it via FaceTime on the phone. So they would just keep showing me the back of the camera. And I would watch the takes and then direct it remotely. And then I got everything back and edited it at home. And it was a very surreal, quarantine type directing project.
So you directed a project without ever physically being on scene, so he was directing the entire film via basically Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And your cast members, my first thought when I saw it was, okay, that's cool. You know, what would happen to a superhero who's stuck in quarantine? And then of all the superheroes, why Hawkman? Well, there's a very specific reason for Hawkman, right? Could you please explain that?
Yeah, the actors that are in it, Hawkman and Hawkgirl, they play Hawkman and Hawkgirl on the WB or TV show Legends of Tomorrow. They're just friends of mine, so
Yeah, so
figured if we could avoid any copyright issues, we might as well go for it.
So it's the actual actors from the TV show playing the superheroes that just ended up in your weird little side project film when you weren't already working on 200 other films at once, because I know you too well. And then Devin, let's check in with you. Does anyone want to pop and lock a question to Devin as opposed to state something out loud? I'm sure the audience is really curious about the difficulties that go into creating a film solely through dance choreography, when you're trying to tell a story through interpretive dance, when there's no dialogue whatsoever. What sort of difficulties does that add as a director?
I think it's hard. We rely on dialogue to really help tell stories. At least I do in narrative film. It's a real task to make sure you're telling a visual story. I mean, we did use music, sound design, the loop group, so that helps emphasize the emotion and some of the highlights. But yeah, it was definitely kind of a case study for sure.
Terrific. Sarah, let's check in with you and the Spooky Girls crew. So how were the different roles involved? And we should preface it as well, your day jobs as well, because everyone who worked on Spooky Girls also works for Leica Studios. So if you're familiar with the films Coraline and Paranorman and Kubo and the Two Strings and all those films, puppetry, I guess, is in your spare time when you're not already doing puppetry?
No, Sarah can answer that.
Jason and Gabe do a lot more studio work because Gabe currently works on Wendell and Wild, which is a Key and Peele film. But I do what I want every day. It's all puppets all the time. So.
Sorry, we lost our camera feed for just a moment.
Oh, I looked really cute when I said that too.
FHD. Oh, you know what? My camera battery may have died. Bear with us. Hopefully everyone can still hear us, but you may not be able to see us on stage. My apologies for that. Let's throw it back up to Jen as she's doing goggles for us and karaoke. To explain to us the whole concept of a karaoke confessional booth and the kind of responses and stories that you get out of that, because it could seem like it would be a weird circumstance, but you got some really personal responses from people, right?
I did. Well, what happened is I would or be told about them and reach out, and we set up a plan to meet at a karaoke place in Portland where we set up the booth through the day. Nobody's drinking, nobody's around, heckling you, nothing. We shot the whole thing on an iPad because I wanted no crew. I didn't want anyone to sit in a professional booth like you sit in confession, even though that's not my religion. I wanted that intimacy. So we would sit down and I'd hit record and coffee for an hour or two and really get into it, because every one of these people had to karaoke and it changed their lives, all of their lives for the best. And I had like 35 different people cherished every one of them. I could have made a film about each person.
Erik, I'm curious in 32 Goldfish, because your characters in it, especially the ones that were painted with the kind of white chalk dust, you had some really unusual shots, I thought, of the characters that were killed and they're dead. No one really realizes how difficult it is to be dead on camera until you have to do it. No breathing, no twitching, no blinking. And it's one thing to do it for a couple of seconds. You had some shots that were on your poor actors for like really long where they can't move a muscle. How difficult was it to get those shots?
Oh, not at all. Everybody was like absurdly committed. I wouldn't say that they are dead. I wouldn't say that they're not dead though. But yeah, just to make it more difficult for everyone's life. But yeah, no, it was really great. I had a lot of great friends who were really committed to just go through that. That one shot in particular, that's my friend Scout, and they couldn't use the latex, so we had to do something without latex, and it was just like 2 hours picking pieces off their face. So yeah, I'm really grateful, but it's all them. It's not me.
Brandy, regarding Happenstance, how did your casting all come together for your film?
I had so the actor who played Greg had actually this was a student project through Northwest Film Center in Portland, and it started in a web series writing class. Jack, who plays Greg, had actually come to those classes to do some read-throughs, and kind of from the first time I saw him act out Greg, I knew that it was him, and so I really hoped that I'd be able to get him, and luckily I did, and then just put out a casting call, and I got super lucky with the cast that I put together. Everyone was volunteer, and we ended up having to do a second shoot. We tried to do it all in one day and didn't quite get it, and I remember emailing everyone and just being like, "Can you guys give me one more day, please?" And everyone was totally game for it. But yeah, it was just a matter of posting a bunch of Facebook film groups and hoping that people filled out my Google form. and there's some people that, I mean, the main characters I did with Widow and Greg and Luna, but everyone else, even the people who had speaking roles, we met a couple days before shooting, and I just hope that it worked out, and I think it did.
Terrific. Justin, regarding the other border, your film gives a human side to the issue of illegal immigration, looking at one individual and how it kind of affects their lives. Can you give us a status update as far as what's going on with Gordo? Have you had a chance to touch base with the family in the time since you completed the film and know what's going on?
Oh yeah. I speak with Gerardo and his family every couple of weeks. I'll try to power through this echo. So Gerardo's brothers and sister were all born here in the States, so they are citizens. Gerardo is the only child who is here, quote, illegally, unquote. And so before the COVID disaster, he was slated to be deported early this year. Now all of the legal recourses are closed, so he's got some respite, but the issue, of course, is that there's no update as to what's going on with this case or what can happen next. So it's one of the reasons why I'm so committed to getting the film out anywhere I possibly can, because not only is his life in real, I would say, his American life in real jeopardy, but he's just one of countless other individuals who are stuck in our insane immigration system. And it's an important topic, especially with the election. So make sure you're registered to vote, and everyone you know is registered to vote.
Devin, let's check in with you regarding Allison in Nighthawk. Um, the story of your film, you know, it's beautifully, I would say acted out, but danced out. But you know, almost all films that we watch, there's dialogue. There's one person says something, the next person says something else, and that kind of progresses the story. Your film is left open to so much interpretation of what's going on, and that's why it really stands out is really unique. Aside from the fact that the dance, the choreography in it is absolutely beautiful, but in the course of filmmaking of a film that has no dialogue and is entirely interpretive dance, was there any concern that people may not grasp the story arc, or what steps did you put in to make sure that even though it's set to music with interpretive dance, there's still a clear storyline to your film?
Yeah, I don't know if you had the version that has the subtitles.
No, we did not have the subtitles in there.
I'm
That
just
might have
kidding.
helped a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting problem that you proposed, because I've had short films where the audience had a different takeaway than I had intended. So, and those films had dialogue. So I don't know if having dialogue makes it is a guarantee for people to understand what you're trying to do as a storyteller. Having said that, I'm hoping people that did watch it, it was clear in terms of what the short film meant for them.
Yeah, cool. Taylor,
We can have a quiz later.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, we'll have to figure out some interpretive dance to send your way for it. Devin, by the way, has also had films previously in the film festival. This was what, your 4th year in a row that you've had a film in?
Yes. I'm crossing my fingers for next year.
Well, I think we have an idea by now of the quality of film that you make, Devin. So thank you for submitting again. Taylor, let's check in with you for Cooped Up, and then we'll come back around to our Spooky Girls. Thank you guys for being patient with me here. Cooped Up, the idea of it, how did it come about? Because you were still in the process of promoting Pick It Up from last year. You're in the process of completing your film, The Last Blockbuster, at the time. You were also doing a YouTube project affiliated with Back to the Future Part 2 that we talked about on Friday night. And I know you're also planning some other films. So what made you want to throw one more thing onto the pile when you're already doing probably more than all of us combined to begin with anyway?
It seemed fun.
Do you sleep?
But what else did I have to do? I couldn't go to the store. I couldn't go anywhere.
Okay. Just checking, because the workload of what you're putting out is pretty remarkable. You're making the rest of us look bad, man.
It's quantity over quality.
So let's talk.
I have a question for Taylor, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Devin.
Was that an inside joke when you made the reference to Blockbuster in the?
Oh yeah, there is
Yes.
there is a reference to Blockbuster in Cooped Up.
Yeah, I like to think of all my movies existing in the same universe. It's like the Avengers.
It's an amazing ska and comedian-filled Marvel comic universe that has been developed inside Taylor's own mind. That's firmly planted in the 80s and 90s, and she'll never move beyond that era. Let's talk about Spooky Girls for a little bit. Sarah, Jason, and Gabe. As far as the concept goes, check. The film, it's not necessarily like a cohesive thing. It's like little series of vignettes all thrown together. Is that just that you had too many ideas to do one cohesive story? You just kind of want to jumble everything into the mix, or how are you going to structure all of these episodes? Are they going to continue being very sort of like small little vignette scenes that are kind of unaffiliated, or a little bit more cohesive in the structure going forward?
Definitely more cohesive in that story, but there will be little offshoot moments to just make it have a little spice. I don't know.
Yeah. Jason and Sarah have been working a long time on a greater story arc, and like we said in the beginning, this was us to prove out the puppets and the structure and the whole situation of trying a whole new puppet design. So we did gather specifically vignettes for this to put them into these situations. Some of the content from this, I think Sarah might want to chime in here. Some of the content would play into the storyline overall, but for now it's kind of like introductions to the characters and the puppets themselves.
Okay. And how difficult, Sarah, how difficult is it to direct puppets? We were talking earlier about the difficulty with other filmmakers about trying to direct children and directing animals, but what is it like directing puppets?
You're still on mute, Sarah.
Sarah, you're muted still.
Fred, as long as they don't break, it works great.
It's true, and they rarely break.
Well, I'm sure the puppets probably
No,
took
they
a beating
rarely
over the
broke.
course of filming, though, right?
Oh yeah,
But-
yeah.
I don't know.
They're made with some pretty great sensitive materials. So, in working with other puppeteers, this isn't a style that any of us had in our hands before, but a lot of things translate. If you work with strings and rods, you sort of just spend the time practicing, and then it just clicks, and you're good.
Yeah, aside from the time when Jason sat on Tynan, we didn't have too many problems.
Would that be why we have just an arm for one of the puppets in the lobby, not a complete puppet?
Possibly.
Possibly? Okay.
That's just
yeah.
a spare
Exactly.
part. We got lots of spare parts. Piles of them.
Well, let's go around, and we have a great big group, and I really appreciate everyone joining us. But of course, having a bigger group means that we can't go into as much detail of everyone's film individually. Haley, yes, you have a question?
Can anyone hear me through this microphone?
Yes.
I know earlier it didn't work through the call, but I actually had a question for Devin. When I was doing some behind the scenes work, I read that the music was composed after the choreography. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Devin, did you hear that? Oh, okay. So Devin, we had a question that was regarding the film, the fact that the dancers performed with no music. So can you detail kind of how that worked to have music in your film that's all set to choreography when they were dancing to nothing, basically?
I have to say it was pretty weird. It was, I don't know if you're familiar with like Union Station in Portland, but just often people there dancing without music.
Okay.
I guess that's the inside joke.
I get it.
Um,
I live in that neighborhood.
It was strange. It was very strange. It was a lot of letting the choreographer do her thing with the dancers, and us filming it and watching it and asking adjustments to some of the choreography, like, on screen when you do the motions, you don't see them as well because the camera flattens the depth. But then, whereas if they're going out or up, it translates better for the camera. So there was a tiny bit of adjustments from that perspective. But if you guys were on set, you would be troubled by what you saw, which is amazing. They're dancing together with no music, and click track, nothing. So it's definitely a testament to their ability in terms of the dance. Pretty awesome.
Terrific. We have 5 minutes left until we get into our next block of films, so I'll give everyone a chance to give their final thoughts. But I am curious first, because we're in the age of COVID and most theaters are shut down, we've actually had multiple world premieres during our film festival over the last couple of days of films that just were intended to show at festivals and couldn't make the rounds. Anyone on this panel, was this their first ever public showing of their film? Spooky Girls is a world premiere? Yeah. Fantastic. Spooky Girls is a world, anyone else? Was this the first time having their film shown? No? Okay, perfect. Well, we appreciate everyone submitting their films. Jen, do you have any final thoughts for us?
You know what? I encourage everyone through this pandemic. Everything else, you might as well try singing.
Justin, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Just thank you for the invite. Thanks for taking me to work. For having a place for people to gather and watch films in this day and age, which is pretty tough to do. If you're out there in the audience, make something. More people making things now. And as I mentioned earlier, get everyone you know to vote, please.
Brandy, do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share?
I'd just like to say thank you to the person organizers for managing to put this together. It's kind of, it's a bummer to not be able to everyone in person and sit in the theater and have that experience. But I really appreciate you guys still involving the filmmakers and giving us a chance to talk about our projects.
Terrific. Erik, hello again, Erik. We do have a Q&A with all of these filmmakers as well for anyone who has an online pass. Erik and I kind of went through hell trying to record. We had to do like 4 different versions of it because we kept losing the internet and there was a power outage and all sorts of stuff. The universe did not want us to talk before, Erik, but now you have the floor if there's anything that you would like to say while we actually are connected.
Oh God. I just thank you everyone for watching it. I think the film to me isn't really a literal thing. It's more an experience, and to be one of the few handful of films that gets to play in an actual theater and gets to be enjoyed in that format is like a real privilege. And thank you for, God, that echo is killing me. Thank you for programming the film, and thank you everyone for watching. And oh my God, vote. What are we doing? Vote, vote, vote. Can't second that enough. Thank you.
Devin Tao, you're a veteran of this now. You've been at our festival in person before, and you've had films in before. You know what Klamath Film Festival is all about. The floor is yours, sir.
I just really appreciate all the work you guys continue to do every year. Every year it gets better and better, and so I look forward to having the opportunity to come back next year. And thanks to KIFF, the staff, volunteers, sponsors, and then also I think it's an honor to be on the panel with all these other talented Northern Oregon filmmakers. I've definitely seen some of your work from previous years, and it's a privilege to be in the same curated block. So, yeah, thanks.
Taylor, if there's this is your last chance to communicate with the Klamath Independent Film Festival audience, both online and in person. Any final thoughts that you
have? I'm going to echo everybody else's sentiments. If you're watching independent films, definitely vote. You don't have to be registered. You can check. It's super easy. Google it. And yeah, it's an honor to be playing in theaters right now with all these other filmmakers. And thanks to Klamath Film, and thanks everybody.
And we will leave it with our Spooky Girls trio. Sarah, Jason, Gabe, the floor is yours. If there are any final thoughts you'd like to share about your film or the Klamath Independent Film Festival experience in general.
Part of other festivals, but this is the first one where you actually feel like, personal connection, and so that's cool.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. You guys have done a great job.
Thank Yes, thank you. Thank you for hosting the Spooky Girls and this motley crew. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining our panel. Jason, Gabe, thank you. Devin, Taylor, Sarah, Erik, Brandy, Justin, and Jen. How about a round of applause for all of their films? Okay, up next we have our Southern Shorts program, which is starting right now. Then we'll go into a Q&A, and then we'll be our awards ceremony at 7:15.